Pornography. We've all heard about it, some of us have even seen it, others have read it. It comes in all different formats, from the top shelf magazines to under-the-counter porn videos. But what we really want to know is, how does porn affect our lives? Does pornography make or break a relationship? Are the teenagers of today using it to teach themselves because talking to their parents is too embarrassing? Has it changed our expectations of sex and what it should be like? What does go on behind closed doors? I'll be finding out the answers to some of these questions.
So, do you watch online pornography?
No, I don't.
And why is that?
I've never really felt urges to watch it. I think it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable watching that. It just doesn't feel natural.
Okay. Have you ever felt pressured by your friends, or like you've been left behind because they watch it and you don't?
No.
Do you see it as being a glamorised industry?
I think it can be, yeah. I think it can be unhealthily, probably, from the audience's point of view, especially if a younger generation is watching that stuff. But yeah.
And do you feel that it has more of a negative effect on people than positive?
Yes, absolutely. Especially on women, I feel that it's putting an image out there of what a woman should look like. You know, a woman has to have the hourglass shaped body and the big breasts and the
long blonde hair.
Yeah, to be found sexually attractive. I think that's.
So do you feel that it's changing our expectations of what our partners should be like?
Yes.
And do you think that is ruining relationships?
I think it can do, especially. My friend was in a relationship a couple of months ago, and he saw another girl that was more, had the lumps in the right places, as it were, and that caused a lot of arguments and a breakup, and then, so I think it can, yeah.
Do you worry that some people may want to bring what they see to life?
Yes, I think that's one of my main concerns about pornography. There was a story a couple of years ago about a schoolboy, and he would bring his actual life, and was it he raped schoolgirls behind his school?
Yeah. Do you feel that teaching pornography as part of sex education would maybe prevent that?
I think pornography, it should be made clear of what is right and what is wrong. For example, bondage porn, sort of fetish porn should maybe be made clear that actually the woman or the man in that case is willing to be tied or gagged and going through that process instead of being forced to do it.
And at the end of the day, they are actors, and
yes,
that is their job.
I think that should be made more clear.
Yeah. So do you think that people maybe misunderstand the fact that this is acting in...
Yes.
Yeah.
Porn has been around since the Paleolithic period, and it was conducted on cave walls. Engraved images of nude women and doggy-style drawings existed as early as 10,000 BCE.
So, do you watch pornography?
I used to a lot when I was a kid.
Why did you stop?
Bit too far expectations, too high for it.
Why did you start in the first place?
I was bored.
So it was just boredom?
Yeah. Curious too.
Why is that?
Because I was just a kid.
How old were you?
Christ. I was about 14 or 13. So just when puberty kicked in.
And were your friends at the same time experiencing what you were?
Yeah.
Would you discuss it amongst your peers?
I had a friend who discussed it to the point of graphic detail, to the point where one of my mates almost threw up because of it. Yeah, my friend was a weird guy.
So, how did it make you feel? Did it make you feel embarrassed, or were you just like, be quiet please?
Confused.
Did they have different tastes to you?
Yeah.
Very different taste.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's a bad thing?
No, my friend probably yes. No, my other friends probably no, because they were just as curious as I was. Since when you're going through when you're 13 and going through puberty,
Yeah.
you get curious about things, and the best way to find things you're curious about is through the internet.
So would you not ask your parents about it?
Ask my parents about porn.
Well, about sex
About
and
sex.
relationships.
They didn't tell us. They didn't tell me. They told my brother and sister. But, they probably left it up to sex education at my school, which wasn't very good. They just literally showed us pictures of diseased penises and vaginas trying to make us throw up.
They never actually tell you about like the emotional side about it, do they?
I had to kind of learn that as well from like online forums about talking about sex and what it actually is.
So do you think people, like when you were younger, would benefit from having more detailed sex education and talking about pornography?
It'd be better, since I was a confused ass kid and I had to Google it myself. So yeah, I think they should talk about pornography more in schools.
Have you ever bought any pornographic
No.
material? No.
That's what the internet's for.
Free.
It's free shit.
Is that of bad quality? Because it's free?
Depending where you look, yes. Depending where you look, no.
Where would you say you see most pornographic material?
On the internet. There's so much internet pornography.
Like everyday sites?
You actually do see them more often on everyday sites now, with that whole pop-ups with the find local girls in your area and this person wants to hook up. You know, you find them spread around the internet quite often. So, because it didn't used to be so much
of it.
Pop-ups for that kind of thing. But now there's a whole bunch, because if you notice, sex is becoming a more common thing today.
Yeah, definitely. So do you feel that the industry's become more glamorized as such?
Some aspects of it has. Other aspects no. Like snuff movies, thank God they haven't been glamorized since people die in them.
Do you think porn stars are degrading themselves?
Yeah.
Why is that?
There's no glamorous thing about getting double penetrated, is there?
But it is a job.
It's a job, which is basically prostitution, just with a video camera. Because they get paid for their pornographic films, and what do prostitutes get paid to do? Have sex. It's just a difference of there's a camera there and you're just putting it on the internet.
So you think it's the different labelling?
Yeah.
What, like a...
It's just that one item.
Different label on the same tin, basically?
Yeah, it's that one item that changed everything.
Are the actions of porn stars ever something you ever thought about recreating?
No.
If you had a partner, would you worry that they may want to bring the fantasy to life?
Unless they're super crazy, yeah, but probably not if they're super normal.
So, would it be something you would agree to or not?
If it doesn't involve me getting hurt or killed, then yeah.
Does being exposed to any pornographic material make you feel embarrassed?
No.
Does it make your friends feel embarrassed?
Not really, it's a part of growing up. That's that point. When you're a kid, you will remember the first time you saw pornography. Probably not so much for girls as for boys, since it's mainly a cornered off demographic.
Do you regret starting so young?
Probably.
Do you think it's distorted your expectations?
No. Other things have distorted my expectations of life.
In relationships and sex life?
My relationships aren't that good, so my online pornographic life doesn't affect that whatsoever.
2001, there were 70,000 adult sites, and today there are more than 4.2 million pornographic websites. There are 68 million daily searches for pornographic material worldwide, and globally, teen is the most searched term.
So, do you watch online pornography?
I do, yeah.
And why is that?
Because it's like a personal satisfaction, almost. Like, yeah, it's just something that I do.
Have you ever used it to educate yourself on that area of like sex and relationships?
No, not really, because I've kind of grown up knowing that porn isn't the same as, you know, sex with a partner and things like that, so
And do you feel comfortable talking about it with your mum, or is that not something?
Not really. I mean, because it's kind of a personal thing, you know. I mean, my mum has different views to to what I do, so it's a bit difficult to talk about it with her.
Yeah. Would you have preferred it if she was different, or did that not make a difference for you?
No, it doesn't really matter, because it's something that I only talk about with like close friends and stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. And so you said that you watch online pornography. Whereabouts do you go to look for it?
Obviously, over the years, I've learned that like there are sites for that, that are dedicated to online pornography. But sometimes it's like you can just search it on like Google and loads of pages will come up. You can really define your search to what your taste is.
Yeah, and have you ever purchased pornographic material, whether that's online subscription or magazines?
Yeah, I used to buy magazines, for a laugh actually.
Can I ask what ones?
It was Zoo and I can't remember, but Zoo was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that the quality of pornographic material is better if you purchase it?
I think that depends. I mean, I've never bought an online subscription to like a pornographic website, but from what I've heard and from what like adverts tell you and things like that, it looks a lot better quality. I mean, if you're paying for it, it should be. But I think if you don't pay for it, you don't really need to. If you're not someone that really looks at the quality of it, you don't really need to, because there's enough online for free, Yeah.
And do you think that the whole porn industry is glamorized, or would you say that the porn stars, especially the women, are like degrading themselves? Do you agree with that?
I don't think they're degrading themselves, because at the end of the day it's their choice, it's their career move. That no one's forced them into having sex on camera. That's something that they've chosen to do. That's something that they obviously enjoy, that they find it, it comfortable to make money out of. So it's up to them. But I do think the industry's a bit glamorised. I mean, as it's grown over the years, it's become more popular. More people are open about talking, about sex, and now there's like expos and things like that are all to do with the adult entertainment industry. So it's it is glamorised now, whereas it used to be like seedy and not spoken about. And yeah.
Do you talk about porn with your friends?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's more that you feel comfortable with them as opposed to your parents?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I just feel, I mean, with my friends I'm a lot more myself than I am at home. I think most people feel like that.
Have you ever wanted to act out something you've seen in a pornographic film?
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, not everything, but there are bits and pieces that I'd be happy to do with a partner, or,
If you had a partner, would it worry you that they may want to recreate the actions they see that you maybe didn't feel comfortable with?
Not necessarily, because I think that in a relationship you talk about things. If someone's not happy with your sexual relationship, then you tell your partner and you explain, and if you're not happy, comfortable doing something, then you shouldn't be forced, or you shouldn't force them to if they're not comfortable with it. It stays as your fantasy,
Do porn stars change your expectations of relationships and what your other half should be like?
Not for me. Like, I've grown up knowing that it's so different to, real life relationships and real life sex. So they're more of like it's almost as if it's like an animation, it's not real. I mean, obviously part of it's real, some things that people do, but I think it's a different world to what I would do, because like, as I'm growing up, I'm finding out what you do, for myself rather than finding it on a video.
Internet porn in the UK specifically receives more traffic than social networks such as online shopping, news and media. The sex industry is the most profitable in the world. Examples include street prostitution, brothels, strip clubs and phone sex.
So, when you were growing up, was there a lot of pornographic material you were exposed to?
To be honest with you, there wasn't that much, actually. Growing up, especially in probably first few years of senior school, I don't think I even saw a pornographic image. I don't think it was around me until I entered about probably year 9. It was really that I sort of, through friends, saw about it, learnt about what it was about. But growing up, not so much, no. Unless there was something slightly pornographic in film or like media, but nothing that was specifically designed to be pornographic. I wasn't really exposed to much as a young age.
Did you feel comfortable talking with your friends about it, or was it a bit embarrassing?
When it first started, I think when it was exposed to me, when they showed me it, I was reluctant because I hadn't seen anything like it before. But I was more, with closer friends, I was more comfortable, I think, discussing it with friends, but not with family. No, still to this day I can't even breach the subject of sex with my family.
Really?
I find it, yeah. I mean, we can talk about it, you know, to an extent, but when it comes to my private life, I don't like to talk about. But my friends, I've got no reservations in telling them anything. And even at a young age, when it was first exposed to me, I didn't really mind. You know, it was more intrigued to learn about it and to talk about it with friends and find out what was normal and what wasn't and that kind of thing.
So did you ever use porn to teach yourself about stuff?
I think once it was exposed to me, it was something that I wanted to go and find out more about myself. But when I did go and find out about it, it was a lot more, nothing like what I thought it was going to be. I think it was more of, you know, that's more strange, and it was more of like, more of that than a sexual interest, I think, in it. But I did use it to go and have a look and find out. And I just thought, oh my god, I can't believe this is out there. But as I say, I was technically quite late in finding out about it, so that might be an explanation for that. But.
Do you wish you had found it earlier, or are you glad that you were...
I'm quite happy that I stayed quite unaware about it until I found it. I think when I was growing up in kind of year 7 and 8, as I said, we just, especially in the group of friends that I had, I think what was interesting is that if I'd been friends with people who I were friends with in the later years, sort of year to probably 11, I would have been exposed to it much earlier because they were more that way. The friends that I had in year 7 and 8, they were a group of people that just weren't, wasn't part of their interest. It didn't come into their or our daily life, you know. So I'm quite glad in a way that I found out about it when I did. I think I was sort of ready. I think if I was a bit younger, I think it might have confused me a bit more, perhaps.
Do you think that maybe teenagers would benefit from learning about it in sex education? Yeah,
I think, you know, sort of going against sort of my case, I think because I did find out about it quite late, I think if I'd found about it earlier and it was introduced in an educational way, I think that would be something that would be positive. I do think that part of sex education, you're going to be exposed to this kind of thing eventually anyway, and it's probably better to do it in an environment that you can learn about it safely. I think when people, especially young people, like, you know, talk about, as I say, year 7, year 8, 9, they go and find things, they can get a very warped sense of what they see in pornography, and if they were given some kind of guidance really to what is realistic, what is safe, and, you know, I think that would be beneficial to them. But I think sex education needs to be a lot more broad, you know, to take into account this whole fast-moving media
as well.
Absolutely, you know, I think when they see it at that kind of age, they don't quite understand really what it is that's going on and the emotional effect that it can have on people. I think that needs to be discussed, or at least a dialogue needs to be open about it, at least.
And talking about the industry itself, do you think that it's become more glamorised in a way?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean, you know, I think, especially with the emergence of, I know it's a completely separate thing, but the whole glamour modelling thing, I know that's completely different territory, but that kind of sense of like nudity and that kind of hiatus of being, you know, glamorous and stuff like that, I think it has been. I actually knew someone who was a cameraman and that did a couple of years ago that used to do, and, you know, finding out about the realities, it's so far removed. I think it has been really glamorised and been completely and utterly changed. I think it's a completely different world that you see, that's full of glamour, but then really behind it, it's something completely different, and it can be quite dark and quite scary for people. So completely never top. Yeah.
Do you think that the men and women in like the porn stars are treated differently? Do you think that the women are seen as degrading themselves and the men are like, oh yeah, you're a bit of a lad,
Yeah,
a lad?
yeah. I think completely, like with so many things, I think the gender divide there is completely relevant when it comes to pornography. I think with women, especially in the porn industry, I think when guys see women being degraded as they are in pornography, I think to some extent it gives them a kind of false, you know, sense of how it is appropriate to treat women, especially in nightclubs and, like, you know, that kind of scene. I think it translates quite well. I mean, I can't say that there's a direct link between, you know, pornography and how women are treated in clubs and stuff like that, but I do think, even though I don't think women are degrading themselves by doing it necessarily, I think it's completely down to their choice of how they want to live their life, and some of it can be seen as quite empowering, some of it can be seen as degrading. I think it's like a fine line.
Relating to relationships, do you think it's beneficial to a relationship or not really? Not really.
I think, again, it's one of those things where it all depends on the specific circumstance where it's been brought in. I think if a partner, you know, for example, if my partner was watching it privately and it was behind closed doors and it was very... If it was secretive and if it wasn't part of the functioning of the relationship, then I'd probably feel like that was probably a negative thing. But I know friends, you know, couples that use it regularly in the bedroom and, you know, it enhances their sex life. So I think, again, it depends who you are, and if you're in a stable and safe relationship and it's part of it, then I think it can be all good, I think.
In your past relationships, have you ever felt inadequate to your partner?
You know, as I say, because I'm not necessarily... Porn has never been something that has really overly sexually interested me, so it's something that I would probably use, you know, with friends as more of a like a comedy type thing rather. So it hasn't necessarily impacted me in that way. But I know friends, you know, that have said, seen something on porn and been like, look, I don't look like that. You know, to think especially a lot of my friends have had children, and obviously going through having a child, their bodies have changed, and their partner's still very much interested in pornography. And they've told me that they feel completely and utterly inadequate when they see, you know, the idea of what perfection is, you know, through the eyes of their partners, and they feel that they don't fit that. So, not necessarily to me, but I know of cases that it's happened.
So, you think that people's views have become distorted because of the pornography? Absolutely.
You know, I think as a generation, we are so distorted by so many different things, and I think pornography is a big one because... as I say, speaking to people that have, or someone that has worked in the industry, it's not what you think it is, and you know, type of body shape and body, you know, it's not realistic. It's a completely separate thing, and I think people can be too sort of. It's the same with any industry, but especially the porn industry. People get sucked into it, and they lose sense of reality, and they might be trying to aspire or adhere something that they can never be, you know, without plastic surgery, and you know, that's a whole other different thing, but again it's quite linked, so I do think it can be.
Male porn stars make more money performing in gay pornography, up to 3 times more per film. The term for this is called gay for pay.
So when you were growing up, what was the exposure to pornographic material like?
I didn't have too much exposure to pornographic material. The most I think I ever saw, like as a teenager or as a young child, was looking at some of the like local parks and finding that magazines maybe have been ripped apart. So you'd find all these different adverts that are on the back of the magazines just fluttering about in the wind. So if you pick them up, you'd look at a person with stars all over the nipples and things like that. But other than that, there wasn't too much like exposure to it at all, really. I mean, it's not something that me and my friends would sit in a circle and be like, okay, let's go and have a look at some porn now, shall we? So it wasn't really on there.
So you'd say it's changed now, it's become more wide range?
I think there's definitely like a wide range of like media in relation to pornography and the different ways that you can access it now. I mean, like, whereas, say for example, living in a family home, we had one family shared computer. I would not, and you know, we were attached by a modem, so great. It's not something that, if I wanted to go and view any pornographic material as a teenager, I would have been able to do on a family computer. So, but
now, I mean, there's a wide variety of ways that people can access pornography or porn-related media, and there's also so many different personal ways that you can do it. I mean, lots of different people now have a smartphone. Smartphone didn't exist back in my day. We had a Nokia, we could play Snake. That was about it. But now, if you was to go on your smartphone, you would connect to Wi-Fi or just any kind of internet, like, you can go and view materials. And there are even apps, you know, dedicated to pornography. Yeah.
Do you think that it affects relationships, like if a partner keeps it a secret?
I think in my experience, I don't think it does, as long as you are keeping quite an open and honest view about it, really. So with some of my partners in the past, they have viewed pornographic material in their own time, which is fine, fair dues, like, you know, go and do your thing, whatever. I think sometimes from my sake, I think sometimes it could be used as, or thought of as a fantasy world. So people might be going to view materials or go and view porn in a relation that they might not have wanted to do that sort of stuff with their girlfriend, but they want to go and see, I don't know, if people do it to themselves or to other people, if you see what I mean. But I've never been, I had this really, I'll give you a good example of how open and honest and stuff I was with a partner about porn. There was, I went over to his house one time and he had been watching porn quite recently. You could see it in his DVD player. We went to go and watch a movie, and so I pulled it out and I've got this DVD and I was like, so what's this? And he was just like, oh, you know, it's just, and it was something really sordid. It was like, what's in her ass? Like, that was the title of it. And I was like, is this a game show or something? So we kept it quite like funny and quite light, and that made it less embarrassing for him. But for me, it's never been a problem. I think it only becomes a problem if that fantasy world sometimes creeps into reality and there are boundaries being crossed that shouldn't be crossed. But in the same way that gaming and, you know, overplaying of normal games can be quite damaging to relationships, like in the same, I think it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, has it ever worried you with a partner that they may want to bring the fantasy to reality?
Not necessarily, because I've not known if they are viewing any extreme pornography, and to my knowledge they haven't viewed any extreme pornography. It would worry me if they were viewing that stuff, because it would kind of make you question the relationship a little bit, but I do understand that is a fantasy and people do have interesting fantasies, and it's I suppose it's whether or not we should making those boundaries really with fantasy and reality. But I think in relation to that very extreme pornography, there's a lot more restrictions coming now in the UK, as far as I understand anyway. I read my Metro every morning, so I get all my data from there. Tabloid newspapers. So I understand that there are going to be more restrictions on what you can be viewing as an individual now, which I think is really good, and I think that might create something that's quite safe.
Yeah. With regards to teaching sex education in school, do you think that the students would benefit from learning about pornography?
In some ways yes, in some ways no. In some ways I think some of the changes that are happening naturally with pornography now anyway. So for example, there's the big debate at the moment whether or not porn stars should use condoms. So although that debate is, you know, going on and being very progressive, it'll be interesting to see the end result into that, because if it wins, then that's a fantastic message to be sending out in relation to sexual health to young people. If they don't, then you would do exactly the same thing as you would do. Say for example, if I had a student coming to talk to me about pornography, not in a way that you are, but about you know, their usage of pornography, it would be very clearly explained that what that world is completely different and absolutely nothing to do with what the actually end result is. Like, I very much know that these people that perform would go through very, very vigorous health checks before they go and do anything. That the work isn't necessarily always as degrading as some people think that it could be, and it's not always it's not always as sexy as it's shown to be on TV. It's quite clinical, and it is very much known that it's for people that I have known working within the industry, it's viewed as a job. It's not exactly the always the nicest of things to go and do, but it's viewed as a normal 9 to 5 like anything else. To be honest, it's just what happens.
Would you say it's become more glamorised?
No, gosh no. I don't think it's become at all glamorised. I think it's become less glamorised. Like, the amount of things you can do with a camera nowadays, like, and the amount of ways you can wear a camera probably, I think it's become less glamorised. I think for, if you look at some really sort of vintage, like, pornography, and they had ladies very much still getting involved in burlesque sort of things, and I think we've definitely moved on to what, I think that the society has definitely moved on as to what we want to be seeing on screen or what we want to be viewing. I think, you know, shots from all different angles, you know, very penetrative. Shots, they're the usual things that you see nowadays rather than a glamorous woman, and the storytelling has been lost completely as well.
Do you think that it's more seen as unfair on the women because they're degrading themselves as opposed to the men?
No, I don't. I think essentially I think it's the same with both gender, to be honest with you. I mean, if you look at if you're looking, it depends on what kind of porn you're looking at, to be quite honest with you. If you're looking at straight heterosexual porn, it's very, very different to gay porn or lesbian porn. So could you say that which partner has the, you know, has the upper standing in a say, for example, a lesbian porn movie or show? Do you know what I mean? So yeah. I don't think there is any I don't think it's degrading to either gender. I think the whole process is supposed to be a little bit taboo, and you're supposed to go, oh my gosh, a little bit. Sometimes when I watch it, like if I have watched it, and if I go, oh my gosh, you know, I can't believe this, oh my gosh, like, how is she doing that? Why is she doing that? Like, I don't think it's. I think it's supposed to have that reaction with me. I don't think it's supposed to have me thinking about, oh, this is very unfair with a woman or a man. I don't think it's about that.
In Australia, they've banned females in pornographic films with breasts smaller than a B cup.
Do you two watch pornography together?
Yes.
And do you feel that's benefited your relationship in any way?
That's a difficult one.
I think enhances is better than benefits.
Do you both watch it separately or is it just together?
Both, I would say.
Oh right, am I supposed to answer this? Yeah, we both watch it. We watch it separately. Don't really watch it together very often. Separately, most of the time. Yeah.
Do you ever worry that one of you may want to emulate something that you see, and that the other partner may not?
No, I don't think so. No.
No. No, don't think so.
No. I'm very honest and open about stuff like that, so it's no.
So the fantasies never crossed into the reality?
No.
You do try and keep it separate?
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you ever been with someone who's hid their pornographic tendencies, or do you do that now?
No, I don't think I can't remember ever being in a relationship where pornography was prevalent. Maybe it's as prevalent as it is in ours. Or in a relationship where I thought, it's it's a difficult one.
I have. It was secretive in mine.
It was it? I've never had that. No, I've never.
Yeah,
never had that.
When I was married, it was very secret from him, not me.
And how did that make you feel?
Like shit.
Did it bother you? Was it more...
It bothered me because I was in my early 20s, so obviously you have a lot of sort of like body issues and stuff like that, and the fact that it's hidden under floorboards, I think, made it even... It made it crude when it shouldn't have been crude, so yeah, it doesn't make for a good relationship at all.
No, it wouldn't do, would it?
Do porn stars change your expectations of your partner?
No.
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 No, not at all.
Not at all.
With regards to sex education, what do you think could be done to improve it? Do you think that teaching pornography would help in any way?
Well, that depends on what you mean by teaching pornography.
Or talking about it within lessons.
Yeah, I think if you speak to young people about it, or it was in the curriculum in some way as part of sex education, I think that is a really good thing, because then
they realise it probably won't be so glamorised then.
Yeah, you take away the mystique of it really, because it's like everything. Once you put a shield around something and think, well, and you get people saying, well, we should protect certain other people because, in their opinion, these other people shouldn't really, because of their age, know anything about this sort of thing, then I think that damages those people, and it makes something more that they want to see it even more. So I think the more it's out in the open, the more people will understand it.
Pandora's box, isn't it?
Yeah, and yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah, and the less issues people would have with it.
And relating to the industry itself, the porn industry, do you think it's become more glamorised? Like, when you were younger, was there as much about as there is today, or was there less? Or
yeah, I'll tell you what. In the 1970s, we've all seen the 1970s porn films. It was a really big industry in the 1970s. It's a big industry now, but that's only because of the digital revolution makes accessibility real easy.
See, in my growing up, the porn industry, it was, your porn magazines were on the top shelf, and you couldn't see them.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be out of sight, out of mind.
But now, obviously, what does classify as porn, because you have the in-between magazines where I think, they may be crossing the line a bit, like the Nuts magazines and FHM magazines.
The lads mags.
The lads mags. They're for lads. Where's the women's stuff?
So do you think the porn industry is more aimed for men?
Definitely.
You definitely feel that the women's actions are for the men themselves?
Yeah, but that's not to say women don't enjoy it as well anyway. But I'm just saying, magazine-wise, yes, obviously, no one wants to see a naked man because there's nothing really attractive about it anyway. So, women prefer to look at women's bodies anyway.
Did you know that an addiction to porn isn't seen as a medical condition like alcoholism is? Here we see a picture of 2 brain scans. As you can see, the colourful part is the pleasure centre in the brain. This is what tells someone they are enjoying whatever it is they are doing. As clearly shown, the porn addict has a much more noticeable reaction to explicit material that was shown to them.
So when you were younger, what was your exposure to pornographic material like? Was it as bad as what it is today, or was it not really spoken of?
In my younger days, probably as a teenager, it would have probably been, I can't even remember the magazine now, and it was a magazine that, I don't know where it was sold on the shelves, whether it was on the top shelf or what. But it was, I think, semi-naked women, but it didn't show anything at all. It was all blanked out. So it was, I suppose, what you call it today, titivating, if you like.
It wasn't as bad as what it was today.
Would it be something that you would talk about with your friends in secondary school?
No.
No.
Not at all.
Was it embarrassing to talk about it, or...?
Never talked about it.
Never came up.
Never came up.
Would you use it to maybe teach yourselves because talking to your parents about sex and relationships was a bit embarrassing, or were you open with your parents?
No. No. I personally never talked about it with my parents, but I think if I'd brought it up with my parents, they would have listened and discussed it with me, but I was just the type of child that never spoke to my parents about anything, really.
And mine never, I can't ever remember them mentioning it, and I never mentioned it to them, so how I learned about it, I don't know. I think I was a slow learner, really, as your nan will testify to. But yeah, they never ever mentioned it, and I don't think us together as a family were ever exposed to it together in one place, whether visually, verbally, or any other shape or form. So I can never think of any instance where it was either seen or discussed as a family group.
But contraception and things like that were never talked about when we were younger. That was never discussed at school. Things were only discussed amongst your friends. You learn things by other friends, not by teachers or by parents.
We never had sex education lessons at school, and I'm talking about from the mid or the early 50s when I was very young, all the way through to when I left secondary school, which would have been in the early 60s. And I can't remember any sex lessons. Contraception was never mentioned. There was no adverts. There was nothing in magazines that I ever saw. So nothing at all. So I think it was you learned probably by trial and error, you know.
And what do you think sex education is like now in schools? Do you think that maybe they should teach students about pornography? Or?
Well, I obviously don't know what they teach in schools. I only, from what I hear or read, but there again it doesn't go into detail. But yeah, they should teach children, because obviously they need to ensure that there's less promiscuity, but they are fully aware of the consequences of their actions. So there should be some form of sex education, but I wouldn't know how far where it should start and where it should end. But certainly there should be some, and from what I understand, there is sex education, but how far that should go.
I mean, there's sex education and there's pornography, which are completely, to me, different. Sex education should be dealing with relationships and that side of things. Pornography is what I consider to be taken that step further. It's in everybody's face now, I think, with the internet, that kids can go on the internet and see things that they shouldn't be seeing at their ages, and nothing's done to stop it.
And the thing is, it's probably, how do you get it the right way around? The sex education should come first, and if there is pornography, and to what level, that should come second. Because of the way the internet is and every other form of media, they could be hearing and seeing things, either people talking about it or them undercover, if you like. They could be seeing the pornography side first, without the sex education side first. How do you change that? How do you stop it? How do you make sure that they learn, in inverted commas, the correct way and the correct information, the right information first, before moving that step forward, or moving that step that they make that conscious decision to move to?
So if pornography was taught in a controlled environment, and they were taught that pornography is acting, this is their job, this isn't what sex and relationships would be like, do you think that students would benefit from that?
I don't know whether they would benefit in what way. Who makes the decision as to what level of pornography can be seen or talked about, and what can't? Who makes that decision? That's the dilemma. You know, is it the state? Who makes that decision? You know, this is because years ago it wasn't talked about and it wasn't seen. Now it is, so it's moved on. So who's going to be making that decision as what's going to be legitimately talked and discussed and viewed, and what isn't? Someone's going to make that decision. So you have to be careful as an instructor or instructress, if you like, as to what you tell people.
And with regards to the industry itself, do you think it's become more glamorised as what it used to be?
Yes.
In what way?
I think nowadays it's in young people's faces all the time. Girls are growing up thinking that they've got to be showing off their boobs, wearing low-cut tops. They've got to, and just to, they're promoting their body all the time. All the young kids, and that's the way they're being brought up. They're not being brought up as children anymore. They're being brought up with all this going on around them. And I just think that all the access that they've got to the internet, to the porn, I think it's causing more trouble with the young ones. They're getting into raping children, and which may have gone on years and years ago. Still, it's not something that's new, but I think as the years have gone on, all this is getting increased. That more young people are looking to sex as a tool for them to. They're just not living their lives as children anymore. They're just being brought up in an environment that I don't think is right for them.
But you look at two things. You look at, even in the papers today, you look at a singer or a celebrity, however you wanted to call it, and they're dressing provocatively.
They're promoting themselves.
Yeah, and they're dressing provocatively, and they're saying, oh, when I put this on and came out, I didn't realise that I was showing X, Y, Z parts of my body, or my underwear, or my boobs, you know. So, but that's a load of twaddle. They do know. Why is it? Why are they doing it?
Why do they have to wear next to nothing?
And why is it? It's women. Why is it? What are women? What are they? What's their intention when they dress like that? What are they trying to attract? It's clearly they don't want to be harmed in any way. So is it for a relationship? Well, you ain't going to get the correct or the right or the true relationship by doing that, because the relationship should be between two people, not what they look like. And when it comes to children, look at any major high street store now, you know, even the ones that have been going 100 years, and you look at children's clothing, and it replicates how an adult should look. So gone are the days where you had the Ladybird range of clothes. It's now adult clothes shrunk down to size. And so parents have only got children up to 4 or 5 years old as little children, and they're exposed to everything because they're at school. In America, it's 6 years old. They got them even, you know, a bit longer. But once they've reached that age, they then have the influences of everyone around them, and you know, about the way they look, and they want to keep up with little Sally next door because she's got this frilly dress that you know, shows everything. And now, of course, you've got all this censorship going on the other side, where, you know, to be politically correct, you cannot even take a picture in school of your child doing a nativity play because the other children are there.
And do you think that is purely down to pornography, or do you think other factors play a part in that?
No, it is down to that, because of what you hear and see. And as Nan said, that all of this may have been going on years ago, but because of the way the media is now, years ago it was just newspapers, then television came along, and radio came along first, then television, and now the internet. So it's just showing more now what was probably going on then. As you said, it's probably no different now to then, but we're hearing about it more. So there are these people going around doing harm to people, and you know.
We had more freedom as a child. I mean, I could go in the woods and pick flowers, and, you know, my mum used to sit on the blanket like, couldn't even see me, and I've been gone for hours. But no worry about, you know, some man getting me and, you know, taking me off somewhere. Not like today. We never even locked our doors then, did you?
No, we didn't. I mean, you look at old photographs, you see all the kids out on their little bikes in terraced houses playing on the streets, and there was never any worry.
Pornography is too vast a topic to ever be concluded, due to the fact that it is forever growing and changing within the media. As generations have passed and the porn industry has grown, the more exposure the teenagers of today have had. After interviewing an older couple who were in their teens in the 1960s, it was clear that porn material existed. It just wasn't as in their faces as it is today. No one spoke about this topic within the family, neither with their peers. Did not being exposed have an effect on them? Was this the cause of prudeness? Having sat down and interviewed couples alongside the individuals, it was made clear from the answers given that they all had similar views. Despite still not being able to talk freely with their parents, times have changed enough for people to feel comfortable talking about pornography amongst their peers. With regards to porn in relationships, everyone agreed that to be secretive with pornographic tendencies would ruin the relationship, whether that was feeling inadequate or just feeling it was wrong. Opinions changed when pornography was spoken about openly in a relationship. The younger of the two couples openly spoke about porn and how they are comfortable with one another's tendencies to it, whereas the older couple, the woman in that relationship after her interview, admitted to not understanding the male partner feeling a need for pornographic material when he has a wife, which can be seen as a very old-fashioned point of view. People need to see pornography for what it is. It's clinical and it is structured. Just because we can access pornographic material with great ease doesn't mean we have to. Pornography can no longer be a taboo subject, and nor can we put it back in its box. It's out there, and how we deal with it should be our main focus. As an individual, what you do behind closed doors isn't questioned. It's only when you are in a relationship that your pornographic tendencies could be exposed. Has pornography given us a distorted view of what our sex life should be? Is it to blame?